Welcome back to the 100 Horror Films in 31 Days, combining days 25 and 26. I got in 4 films over 2 days. Kind of slowing, really kind of hitting a wall, to be brutally frank. I'm kind of dragging, limping towards 100 at this point. First up is Grave Robbers. This is the Vinegar Syndrome release, directed by a guy named Straw Weissman, who most notably worked on the Hatchet film. This is about a guy, a funeral. A woman marries this guy that kind of runs a funeral home, and turns out that he and the townspeople are basically killing off people in a bizarre kind of horror comedy. Not much comedy. I mean, it's a low-budget indie film. It has moments where it was pretty. It's actually a fairly engaging story, but it's low-budget independent horror. I give it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't bad. And of course, the Vinegar Syndrome release is just, it's too good for these films. These films, I mean, it's amazing how gorgeous these prints look. This is the alternate artwork. I think this came out in '88, I believe. These films are not, this last few Vinegar Syndrome titles that are coming out are not great, but they're such good releases. I'm still buying them anyway, and I'm interested in really the kind of the special features more than the films themselves. Okay, next up is a very interesting vampire film, A Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night, 2014. It was directed by an Iranian lady named Anna Amatpour. And it's a very gothic, dark-looking film, moody and atmospheric. She gets it right in a lot of respects in terms of the overall tone of the movie. The characters there's a bizarre set of good and bad characters that she tends to pass judgment on. This is almost like a Mephistopheles kind of person that, if you're a good person, she'll cut you some slack. If you're bad, man, she's just gonna bite your neck, drink your blood, and kill you. Really, really interesting film, and almost kind of a love story. It actually it starts out as a straight up horror, and then it kind of gets into this love story type subplot that becomes the plot. First time I saw it, I didn't like it, but this rewatch, I have to say that I've revised my opinion. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do think it's a good film, and I look forward to checking out these special features on this Kino release. It's a nice release. It's got actually a cartoon, kind of a graphic novel, and then a really interesting kind of layout for this Kino release. All right. Next up, I got into my Severin release of Absurd and Anthropophagus. Of course, these are Joe D'Amato classics. First up is Anthropophagus, 1980. Of course, this made the Video Nasty list, and it deservedly so, because you got a couple iconic kills in this or gory imagery in this film. A baby getting eaten, and then, of course, the big famous one, which you can get to the plushy toy, is the guy eating his own intestines. It sounds like it is a crazy, wacky film, a fun watch. But there's long periods where there's really nothing going on. I mean, these couples end up going to an island. And of course, they run into this guy who's been infected, and he's eaten his family, and now he's off eating vacationers on this island. But I mean, there's a lot of scenes where there's a lot of extended moments where there's just kind of prowling around this mansion house. I mean, not a lot going on, so it's actually a little bit of a dull watch about midway through the film. But it does wrap up nicely. It's a fun watch, and I can see why it might have made the Video Nasty list in the 80s. This Seven release is great, outstanding. I give this a 7 out of 10. The release, probably an 8 out of 10. I think it's a must own. Looks like it's far superior in a lot of respects to the 88 release, which I have, by the way. Next up is 81's Absurd. Again, this is Joe D'Amato reprising the Anthropophagus story. This is kind of a loose sequel. And I actually like it better than the first film. I think this has a much more cohesive story. You've got doctors and scientists that have discovered this guy, and they realize that he's got some kind of an infection. Of course, he breaks loose and creates havoc, but this has more of a backdrop as to what's going on and a more cohesive storyline, and the pacing is, I think, better than the first film. The difference, though, is the first film has much better special effects and iconic imagery than this film. Unfortunately, this film, George Eastman is walking around looking kind of normal. I think if they'd have brought over the makeup on George Eastman from the first film into this film with this story, this would have been far, far superior than the first film. I still think it's better. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. But even this one, there's a midpoint where it just kind of grinds to a halt a little bit. Not as bad as the first film, but still a bit slow. But still, I enjoyed it, and I enjoy it slightly better than Anthropophagus. Once again, Seven release. It's got some great special features. And this is a Blu-ray DVD. So, yeah, that's a great release from Severin. If you don't have it, I didn't buy the plushie, but probably should have. I just didn't feel like spending $30 on a plushie. All right, well, that'll wrap up days 25 and 26, and I appreciate you watching.